Thank you, Jeffrey, for sharing your time and experience with us.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Jeffrey Sachs is a world-renowned economist and university professor at Columbia University, where he heads the Center for Sustainable Development. He's also the president of the UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network, and he's widely recognized for bold and effective strategies to address complex challenges, such as extreme poverty, human-induced climate change, international debt, and financial crisis. I'm Hector Rocha, and together with my colleagues Michael Pirson and Ray Sadabi, I put together this conversation as part of the Academy of Management Symposium on the purpose of business organizations and business schools revisit. Jeff, you have been interviewed on a variety of pressing topics during the last months, such as the war in Ukraine, climate change, globalization and equality, the governance of the global development system, and even the situation in Argentina. Thank you for visiting us 2 weeks ago. And today, we would like to take a different point of view. We would like this conversation be a pause for reflection and a call to action based on fundamental questions on values, the purpose of business organizations, and the purpose of business schools. That is, the institution for the formation of current business leaders and future generations. Jeffrey, if we understand the common good as the conditions that promote the flourishing of human beings, families, and communities, our first question is, what might be the foundational values of a post-pandemic market system?
Thank you for taking on the big questions, which we really need to do. We got stuck in the 20th century and until today, focusing on measurements like the gross domestic product, which aren't really about the common good and not even necessarily about the individual good. And we stopped thinking clearly about the real good of humanity, how we can have more fulfilling lives. Now, certainly economic well-being is part of that, but so too is the chance for leisure, for a safe environment, for low conflict, for harmony in society. And when we think about, therefore, how to promote well-being, whether in Argentina or in the United States or in any other part of the world, we should be thinking more holistically. I like to fly under the flag of sustainable development, as you mentioned, because for me, sustainable development means a holistic framework that says, yes, economic development, prosperity for sure, but combine it with social justice, combine it with social inclusion, make sure that every child has the ability to develop in a healthy way and with the skills and education that they need. And for heaven's sake, don't wreck the planet while we're doing this. And this means that we can't go on relying solely on the market system the way that it functions, even in theory, much less in practice. In theory, the problem with the market system is that many things of huge value don't get a proper price, and the market can lead to huge inequalities. But in practice, it's even worse because, say, in the United States, businesses not only don't follow the right market signals, but they often write the rules because they're politically so powerful that either through their voice or lobbying or campaign contributions, they are making regulations for narrow interests, not for the common good. Bottom line, sustainable development should be our beacon. We want societies that are prosperous, fair, and environmentally sustainable. We want businesses to be operating in a consistent manner with that. We want businesses that have a recognition of what is the common good and not to be cutting corners or cheating or lobbying for narrow interests that are absolutely contrary to the common good.
Well, thank you, Jeffrey. It's important that This word came from one of the most influential economists in the world. You are talking about the market system is not enough. I'm talking about the common good. And if we understand business organizations as one of the prominent human organizations, what might be the purpose of business in a post-pandemic scenario?
I think first we should recognize that there are many kinds of businesses. So literally different kinds of business organizations, self-proprietorships, family businesses, publicly owned corporations, for-profit businesses, benefit businesses, not-for-profit businesses. So business means a lot of things, and it means different things to different people and even to different legal systems. I think of business as an organized system for providing value to society through providing a service or a transformation of materials to meet human needs. But that can be a for-profit or a not-for-profit business. It can be a government run in a systematic manner. The bottom line for me of business is that it is a systematically managed process. It's using resources in a rational way, and it is fulfilling a social purpose. When we think about a market system, we think typically of a corporation aiming to maximize profits or maximize the value of shareholders. I just want to emphasize that's only one kind of business. And it's only a piece of a well-functioning society. Of course, we want businesses that are market-oriented, profit-driven, value maximizing. But 2 points that I would emphasize in that. That's not the only kind of business that we want, because a healthy society has cooperatives and mutual societies and not-for-profits and social businesses and so forth. That mix is really important. Second point is market signals are not the be-all and end-all of what businesses should do. Sometimes it really is profitable to do something that's really socially destructive. A business might say, you know what, there's a loophole here. I can do massive pollution and it's not against the law. How strange. Or even worse, I lobbied for deregulation. Now I have the right, because of my lobbying, to pollute. I think that from a values point of view, we should really inculcate a different value, which is that the value of business is to add real value, not to take advantage of loopholes and not to make loopholes. So I'm married to a medical doctor. They take an oath, do no harm. That's an oath. It's not a law per se, it's the Hippocratic Oath. And businesses also should understand, do no harm. Because yes, you may find you have a way to cheat on taxes, or you have a way to cut corners, or you may have a way to pollute because the government is poorly run and it's left open a loophole, or it hasn't recognized the dangers. But I would say, make sure that your business is not creating private value by imposing costs on others, what economists call negative externalities. It's pretty easy to make money by imposing costs on others. Businesses have market power. They often can jack up prices and leave people very vulnerable. And sometimes we teach, well, use all the market power you have. But I think that this is an abuse of the company prerogatives in many, many contexts. We've had hedge funds take over, say, medical manufacturing, and then jack up a price that was stable for years or decades of a vital life-saving medicine and leave people unbelievably hurt. I don't regard that as a proper function of business. And as I said, pollution or tax evasion or taking away the rights of communities in one way or another, even if you can get away with it, it's not right. We had a case during the financial crisis about 15 years ago where our investment banks were knowingly cheating foreign banks. And the answer they gave is, well, they're big boys. It's not our business to protect them. But they were knowingly cheating on selling toxic securities on the grounds that, well, yeah, they should take care. This is absolutely immoral, and it is absolutely contrary to proper business practice. And we have morals as well as laws, because sometimes the law doesn't constrain you, but the ethics should constrain you.
Wow, that's right. Before going to Michael, I think this holistic view you mentioned and the sustainable development goal should be imposed to the purpose of business as well. It's not just economic purpose, it's also the social, the human, the environmental, the community one. Just taking this holistic view, we can go beyond this trade-off between economics and morals you mentioned before.
And it means having some prudence, some self-restraint, some proper behavior, what the Greeks called virtue. I really think that this is right. And I think it leads to a happier life for the business person. It leads to reputation, which is justified for the businesses. Maybe you leave a little money on the table or on the ground, but you live a much better life. And society will be much better if our businesses understand that they're not out to get every peso they can possibly get, but they're really out to behave properly.
Mike.
So let me maybe come in here and just sort of ask, because we've also been engaged in transforming business education. What do you see, and maybe not only business education, but in education at a larger scale, what is off at this point, and what can we transform to create that kind of economy that works for everyone?
You know, the study of proper behavior, right kind of behavior, goes back around 2,300 years. My favorite book on ethics is actually the first one that was ever written, the Nicomachean Ethics by Aristotle. And he talked about what kind of behavior would be good to produce well-being. The Greeks used the term eudaimonia for an individual. And then he wrote a companion volume called The Politics, saying what would be good behavior for the polis, the city, for the community as a whole. Well, this is a kind of the right kind of teaching, and it goes back to the core of actually Western civilization. In Eastern civilizations, you had similar kinds of teaching about moral virtues. Confucius and the Analects is about proper behavior, how to behave oneself. And the idea is that it leads to a better life and a better society. But somewhere along the way, and you can actually date it even to the 17th century, then the 18th century, especially in England, it turns out, the ethics changed. Thomas Hobbes, who wrote the famous Leviathan, had a theory of human nature, which was not Aristotle's or Thomas Aquinas's, but was the idea that people are out for their own good no matter what. They can't be restrained. We are like colliding billiard balls, just hitting each other. And Hobbes had such a dim view of humanity, he said, basically, you need a Leviathan, a powerful state, just to keep people from killing each other. It's not a very edifying view of humanity, but it basically said, in the end, look, people are just going to behave badly, so you need laws, you need enforcement of contracts, but don't expect them to behave better. I don't agree with this. Our whole Western philosophy up to that time said, behave, be virtuous, develop good character, understand what sociality is, understand what the common good is. And that was true within philosophy. It was true within Christian thought as well. And it meant that Western civilization at least had the idea, look, people can be quite bad. People can misbehave, but there's something better. And if we can cultivate that better, we can actually have a better society. I think we've played out the self-interest line now for a couple of centuries. This was the dominant Anglo-Saxon view because that was the philosophy. Even the idea of the invisible hand of Adam Smith says, go for your self-interest, but because of market competition, things will turn out all right. Now, it's a kind of brilliant, ingenious, strange idea, and there's some truth to it, that self-interest guided by competition can produce a lot of energy, a lot of entrepreneurship, a lot of interesting things, but it can also produce an incredible amount of abuse, criminality, cruelty, stealing, cheating, poverty, so many ills. And it also takes away the idea that there is a common good, because you lead to the conclusion, well, climate change, that's not my business. I'm out to make money. I don't want to be bothered by that. That actually is the Wall Street Journal editorial page just about every day, is preaching self-interest. The problem is you can wreck the planet when you take it so far. And so we need the business schools to come back to the deeper tradition and to build on it for the 21st century. So it's not inventing something new, it's overcoming big, glaring gaps that developed in the last 2 centuries with the naive idea that markets alone are going to solve these problems, and that self-interest is all that we need. Because Aristotle was very clear in 350 BC, you need friends also, not just self-interest. He said, if you're just out for yourself, you're not going to have friends. You're not going to have a political community. You're not going to have the kind of life that really is the good life. We better be teaching this in our schools, reconnecting our students with a long, wonderful philosophical tradition, cultural tradition, and also with an understanding why the self-interest model, if taken to extremes, is really dangerous, even for one's own mental health, not to mention for society's well-being.
Right. And if what gives you hope right now to see that kind of shift happening? Because there is a deep tradition in our way of thinking, as you mentioned, rooting like deep roots. How is current situation, maybe the upheaval that we're witnessing, a source of hope? What do you see is developing at this point that can give us sort of the space where we can develop this shift and this transformation more quickly in the time that it's required?
There's a pretty widespread understanding that something's not working out very well, that we have serious problems, whether it's climate change, mega pollution, destruction of ecosystems, widening inequalities, more conflict, actually epidemics of adolescent depression. Many things are signaling, boy, we need to think in a different way. In my neck of the woods, the idea of sustainable development has been adopted worldwide on many occasions now, say the Paris Climate Agreement or the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. These are signals that there is some sense we better do something different. Pope Francis has called for a new economy of Francesco. Now that's Francesco Francis of Assisi. He's saying that we need to go back to the ideas of the common good, the idea of help for the poor, and so forth. And young people have really risen to the occasion to say, we're in. We're going to help design a new economy of Francesco. What I find also very exciting is that in our interconnected world, these issues are being grappled with not only in a narrow Anglo-Saxon-led environment, which was true for a lot of the past 2 centuries, but worldwide. So young people in China, in India, in Africa, throughout Latin America are thinking about these issues. That gives us a chance to actually raise questions again that in a way were off the table. because you used to have, well, there was an American written textbook and it got translated, and that was the beginning and the end of it for a while. And this is going to stop because that's not the way to do things. And so I think the chance for a global dialogue and a global reconsideration, especially given the challenges that we face in an interconnected world, really is at hand. And that is very exciting.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. What would you give as a message to all the business school professors that are listening to this, that they can be part of this transformation? What would you request from them? What would you offer them?
Well, we really need the business schools now to teach how to manage and how to innovate for the human good and for sustainable development. And so I see such bad management by governments, for example, in so many places, just an inability actually to say, our goal is B, we're standing at A, how do we get from A to B? That's a management skill. And that's what we need management to help lead. We need manager trainers and teachers to help our students understand they may be part of the for-profit sector, they may be part of the not-for-profit sector, they may be part of the public sector, but management is going to be crucial no matter which way you're doing it, and manage for the good. And that, I think, by combining the values with the skills, can really make the transformation that we need. That is the bottom line. Let us have the values as a core part of our teaching. This will inspire our students, and let's give them the skills that they can really go out and help make the transformations that we need.
Jeffrey, it seems that just one comment is, it seems that you are targeting first to change the mindset and heart, and then go to talent, the skill set. I think it's an important message, because you are talking about liberal education here, about the wisdom tradition. It's just to open our mind and heart, and then the skill set we need according to that purpose. You mentioned about the human being and the environment. Is that correct?
I think this is exactly right. I wish I had understood it earlier in my own career, because when I got to university, I said, okay, I want the skills. I loved the math. I wanted the training. I wanted the technical. And I said, why should I study philosophy? You know, I'm going to go on and I want the econometrics and whatever it was. And you learn, boy, we better put all these pieces together. And as teachers, I think we can re-examine what we are teaching and what we're doing to make sure that we're with eyes open in this very challenging world. But young people really need some guidance in this also, to help understand what are the challenges, and really that they are part of a society. And so their well-being will depend on a healthy society. And so they are going to be making a social contribution for the common good, and we can help give them the understanding of that.
It's interesting because we are PhD, philosophers and doctors, and maybe, Mike, we can do a research how many business schools in the PhD programs teach philosophy and logic. It could be a very nice question to follow up.
It would be wonderful. I'd be happy to help join that study.
Mike, the last words you like?
No, I just want to thank you, Jeff. It's wonderful to hear that, and also get the encouragement for those of us that are in that space and have been trying to work that way. And I think what is maybe also an opportunity is to connect those people that are on a similar journey effectively to create those transformations more quickly. As you said, this is a global task, a task for humanity. This is not just a small endeavor here for some private pleasure. This is a common good in itself.
Absolutely, and let me congratulate both of you on your leadership for this. It's really wonderful, and absolutely delighted to be speaking with you today.
Thank you, Jeff. Hope this conversation appeals to the mind and heart of the younger generations, especially. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Take care.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah.